Shall we begin by doing a brief recap of our first session on the essence of conscious leadership?
Let's do that. And so what I did in that was I focused on the 4 key cornerstones of conscious leadership. And let's begin with self-awareness. Now, self-awareness really means knowing your authentic higher self, your source self, and your potential, being aware of that. Most people are not in this space, and I'm not being demeaning to anybody. I can tell you that for many years, I wasn't in that space, and I'm not even sure I am now, but I'm working on it. That's the thing, it's a journey. It's about really, if I had to define it even more than that, it's about knowing your personal vision, purpose, and unique source identity, your true higher self. It's about having the confidence to be candid and authentic and being open and honest about your emotions or your energetic state, how you're feeling. And that also requires that you're crystal clear about, and how to pursue your guiding vision and purpose. So really, one of the key cornerstones, a foundational aspect of conscious leadership is self-awareness. And being more self-aware helps to expand your consciousness. It's really important. Now, the second thing is self-control. And self-control is really all about being able to align your behavior with your true higher self. You don't want to be not coherent with that. And so that does take control. It's being able to, and what does that mean? My true higher self, what does that mean, being able to control that? It means being able to control your thoughts, your words, your behavior, your belief systems, and especially your emotional or energetic state. By the way, I always use the word energy when I use the word emotions, because emotions are energy. Your thoughts are energy. Your words are energy. Your behavior is energy. It has an electromagnetic, energetic signature about it. Self-control is also about staying calm and clear-headed and resourceful, especially when under stress or especially during a crisis, which we know is pretty much the state of the world at the moment. It's in crisis, right? And it's also about being transparent and consistently being true to your authentic higher self, right? Aligning your behavior with your clarity and focus about who you are and why you're here. That's crucial. And so, most of the work that I do with leaders, Michelle, is around self-awareness and self-control, those 2 key cornerstones of being a conscious leader. Then, of course, the third one is social awareness. Now, social awareness is really about, understanding people enough that you can be truly empathetic and compassionate. You can identify and connect with the vibrational energy, and I'll talk a lot about energy, as as being crucial to mastery in leadership and being a conscious leader. And it's being able to connect with the vibrational energy around you. And so, you've heard about people talk about the energy of a room, or things like that. We kind of talked a bit about that last week, didn't we? Being sensitive enough to not only understand your own vibrational energy, but the energy of the room that you're in. And, I must say that I really tuned my talents in that area in my 17 years of martial arts, where we spent a lot of time, being able to read the room, read an individual and know whether they're friendly or a threat, that kind of thing. Of course, in the army, especially special forces, they're very good at that. It's developing a keen sense of, social awareness is really being able to tune in to the environment, the networks, the power relationships in and outside your field of vision, being able to feel what's going on. That's a really important aspect of being a great leader. When you walk into a room, you can feel the energy of the room, and you can adapt to the energy of the room and or work to bring, if the energy is low, you can bring the energy of the room up. That's really important as well. And the fourth cornerstone is social control. Now, that doesn't mean, when I use the word control, it doesn't mean being persuasive or coercive or manipulating people. It really means, and it certainly doesn't mean, resorting to the command and control leadership style, which is the predominant style of leadership on the planet at the moment, but the least effective. It really means influencing them, and influence, in my mind, is win-win. It means inspiring people through powerful and positive emotional or energetic states, energetic resonance, enthusiastically engaging people with a compelling and shared vision, right? Being able to collaborate, co-create and cooperate to engage people and compel them to be their best self, their true highest self, and do their best work, really. So there we go. How's that for a little summary of what we did last week?
Yeah, that's great. Yes, rather than manipulating, which seems to be the current way that a lot of leaders.
Well, it's not just manipulation, it's coercion. I mean, being coerced to do things. And we talk a lot about governments coercing people to do certain things that they don't want to do, because they might lose their job, or because, there's other kind of sanctions that are implied on them. So we don't, that's coercion. And, in many, you might call that persuasion, but it's actually using something against you that could, negatively affect your life. That's coercion. Persuasion is probably a gentler form of that, I think.
Yes, well, we've certainly seen a lot of coercion over the last couple of years, haven't we? Without going into that area.
We most certainly have. But you know what?
Everyone knows what I'm talking about.
We certainly have, and it's been very heightened. But I can tell you, in my corporate career, I've seen a lot of coercion, and I call it passive-aggressive coercion. It's where they're, trying to coerce you to do certain things, but they're disguising it in a way where it can't come back to them. They've got a way out, right? They create a back door for themselves. They say, I didn't really say it like that. Well, you did. And it can be just the tone. It may not even be what they say, but it's the tone. And tone has got a lot to do with how people get impacted by communication, a lot. And so it could be just the tonality that has you feel distressed because of the way they're saying things, not especially what they say. So, yeah, interesting topic, really. It
is. So you talk a lot about the role of energy in conscious leadership. Would you explain a little bit more, please?
Yeah, I think the best place to start with this is that, we're really talking about quantum physics, and this is not a new science. I mean, it's only about 100 years old, and I think, the fathers of quantum theory, if you want to call it that, is guys like Max Born and Max Planck and Niels Bohr. These guys were really the fathers of this science, and it's a science that I think has really jumped ahead of traditional physics, or what I call Newtonian physics. And Newtonian physics really led us to believe that, life is logical and predictable, and that we're all separate cogs in a huge machine, and whatever we intend or do will have little effect on our destiny, our predetermined life. So, Newtonian physics is all about this predetermined life. It doesn't matter what you think or what you want to do. I mean, it even questions the whole idea of willpower, whether you've actually got choice or not. Whereas the dynamic discoveries in quantum physics have proven a lot of Newtonian physics, or have challenged a lot of Newtonian physics. That's why some of the leading scientists really had some of the traditional Newtonian scientists and thinkers had a big problem with quantum physics in the early days, because they just kind of said it's not right. But of course, now we know it is. But with quantum physics, it's proven that many things are actually quite different to what Newtonian physics taught us. So quantum physics has really taught us that the universe is actually alive and is energy. And that energy is omnipresent. The energy is intelligent and interconnected. It's an interconnected field of energy, and is often referred to as the quantum field. And it exists in a state of unlimited potential, the potential to form whatever you passionately intend into material reality. Now, this is a big thing to know and understand this, that, you know, your intentions have got a lot to do with what you experience. And it's not just your intentions, but it's the energy that you wrap around those intentions. And I'll call that your emotional energy, your emotional state. And so quantum physics has taught us that everything is energy. You know, the trees, the cars, you, me, the desk, the chair we sit on, everything that we look at has an energetic vibration. And, you know, quantum physicists have also found that, you know, have been able to quantify vibrational energy, or emotions, I should say. You know, they've been able to look at different states of emotion and say, we can quantify that in terms of cycles per second. They call it hertz, you know, with the two letters HZ or HZ. And so they've been able to quantify certain emotional states. For example, they've worked out that there is, you know, contracted diminishing vibrational energy, and that is low vibrational states. And that is states like shame and grief and fear and, you know, anger, resentment. These kinds of states are very low, contracted, diminishing vibrational energy. They're not good for us, right? They impact us negatively. But then they look at the other flip side of that, the higher side of that, and they'll look at emotions like, you know, love, or joy or bliss or harmony or enlightenment. And these are higher vibrational energetic states. They're expanded and they're multiplying. And so, you know, the rule of thumb is this: stay as much out of those low vibrational states as you can, anger, fear, you know, resentment and, you know, blame and shame and this kind of stuff. Because we know from quantum physics that like energy attracts like energy. And so therefore, if you spend most of your time in those vibrational states, those emotional states, well, guess what you're going to attract into your life? You're going to be attracting that into your life. However, you know, here's the good news. The good news is if you control your own energy so that you react through the energetic or the emotion of love or compassion or kindness or caring, you know, the very high vibrational states, or gratitude is a big one, you know, they're very high vibrational states. And so what you're going to attract into your life is that kind of energy. You'll start to experience those kinds of things. And so the game of leadership, the game of life in many respects, is to know and understand. You know, you don't have to be a quantum physicist. You just have to know and understand that, you know, there's diminishing contracted vibrational energy, not good. There's high, expansive, multiplying vibrational energy, very good, go there. And so as a leader, you really want to be able to master your own energy. You want to know and understand and be able to control your energy. You know, Michelle, you've heard me say a couple of times now, if you can master energy, you can master everything. And so what you're doing is using your energetic vibration to create your material reality, the reality that you passionately intend. And so it's through your energetic mastery and your focus, or your clarity and focus, or your focus of intentions, that you can create your own reality. Now, quantum physics have proven this. And so imagine, you know, a leader who is masterful at this stuff. And so let me talk about some of these leaders for a minute. You know, again, it's been proven. I forget where I found this research. I can't quote you a source for it. But what I found in the research is that people that vibrated around 500, or I think that's love, right? Or 528, I think it specifically is love. They're capable of elevating the frequency of 750,000 people to that level. Now, people vibrating at 600, which is harmony, they're in this state of harmony, they can elevate the energy of 10 million people. You know, people vibrating at 700, the enlightened ones, can positively impact as many as 70 million people. Now, you know, it sounds extraordinary, doesn't it? And but when you think about it, right? Now, think about how guys like, you know, say Jesus Christ, for example, how did he impact, in many respects, so many people without mainstream media or social media? I mean, you couldn't attend one of his. You couldn't attend one of his speeches and say, well, I'm just going to text my friends and tell everybody about this guy, Jesus. You know, I mean, it didn't happen, right? But the energy spread, the word spread. And of course, he, you know, as it's written, he developed this massive following. The same with Allah, the same with Buddha, the same with Gandhi. I mean, all these guys were kind of, you know, amassing huge numbers of people, attracting them into, you know, their tribe, their collective, you know, their cohort, and they were doing it through this vibrational energy, this extraordinary vibrational energy. So imagine, you know, the reason I kind of say that stuff is imagine being a leader that has that kind of power. You know how to use that kind of power. Of course, you can use that kind of power for good, or you can use it for evil. And of course, we know that there's people out there using that kind of power for evil as well. And so we don't want to go there, right? I'm not here to educate people how to do that. I'm here to educate people how to be leaders that know and understand how to use positive, expanding vibrational energy that multiplies and that attracts all the things that you really want to attract, meaning the right people, the right opportunities, the right events, the right circumstances, so that you can go about your business in a way that's expansive and creates this really amazing domino effect. And so really that's what I meant by energy. You know, when I talk about energy, and I talk a lot about energy, and my big headline with energy is really, you know, when you know how to master energy, you can master anything. And how do you go about doing that? Well, you specifically master your thinking, and preferably in attunement with your true higher source self. You master your words. Your words are really important. They have massive power. Everything you say, be careful of what you say, because it has energy and it goes out into the universe and it brings back what you've said. And so if you're gossiping, or if you're criticizing, or if you're really negative and critical, you know, it's going to come back. It may not come back today or tomorrow, but it will come back.
So that's probably one of the first lessons we all need to learn, is to catch ourselves out doing those sorts of things, having those thoughts, and stopping them, stopping those thoughts. I remember listening to Abraham Hicks, and Abraham has the 17-second rule, and interesting that it's 17 seconds.
Well chosen number, right?
Yes. That a thought, once it gets past 17 seconds, it grows and grows and grows. If you can catch it before 17 seconds and stop it, it's not going to expand. But if you keep it going, by the time, especially if it's a negative thought, after 5 minutes, you'll be angry at someone that annoyed you when you were a kid. You know, it just gets worse and worse and worse, your thoughts. Where if you can stop it in the 17 seconds, that's one way to take control of those thoughts. And then the other thing is, Glen, so with the brain and the mind playing their role, what's some other ways that we can catch ourselves out?
Let me just go back and build on what you were just talking about, Michelle, because I agree with all of that. You know, I haven't heard the 17-second rule, but I like the 17-second rule. It makes sense to me, right? And I like the number 17. Those in the know like the number 17 and know what it stands for. And so, you know, I kind of think I would expand on that by saying this. It's the thoughts, you know, we have 50 to 70,000 thoughts a day, it's been calculated. And so it's the thoughts that you entertain with emotional energy are the thoughts that get manifested. Remember what I talked about with quantum physics, right? And so let's apply your 17-second rule. If I have a thought and then I really start entertaining that thought with some emotional energy, it's like I think something, I go, oh yeah, that, you know, how dare she say something to me like that? That made me really angry. And if I keep going like that for over 17 seconds, I am now manifesting that into reality, into my reality. And so, you know, how do we pull back on that? Notice the thought and don't emotionally engage with it. Don't entertain it. And so the emotions really, are really the electric charge. I guess that's a good way of putting it. The emotions are the electric charge around that thought that gives that thought power. And so if you don't wrap any emotional energy around it, you don't give it a charge. And then what you can do is get into this habit of just saying, no, not interested, let it go, let it go. Yeah, it's a thought. I observe it. You've probably heard a lot of people, spiritual masters, say, well, if you have really negative thoughts that you want to do something bad, don't entertain it. Don't put any attention to it, because what's attention? Attention is your energy. And so don't put any attention to it. Don't put any energy around it. Just really observe it and then dismiss it. And then say, well, no, I'm not really interested in that. I don't know where that thought came from. It's not even really my thought. So therefore, it's
I just go.
Yeah, just let it go.
Stop it. I say to myself, stop it.
Stop it. Yeah. And then move on, right?
Myself.
And then move on and let it go and don't entertain
Yeah.
it. So that's, when you start to get really good at that, what you'll find is there'll be less and less and less of those negative thoughts appearing. They won't appear so much anymore. And you'll be moving into a whole new level of, I prefer to use the word optimism rather than positivity. You become optimistic. I think it's a far more powerful word than just being positive. But you wanted to talk about the brain and the mind, right?
Well, I did actually. Yes,
bit, yeah.
We sort of got a bit sidetracked with the 17-second rule.
Let's get onto the brain.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
the brain. This is my view of the brain. Not many people on this planet know much about our brain, right? So I'm not putting myself up as an expert. I've just done a bit of reading about it and I've tried to understand a bit more about it. But even neuroscientists will say we don't really know much about the brain. And so I'll just share a little bit of what we do know. For example, your brain, we're blessed to have this thing. It's really quite incredible. Your brain is the most powerful and complex organism known in the universe. It's a big statement, I know. You have over 100,000 miles of blood vessels and 100 billion neurons that perform, you ready for this, Michelle? That perform 10 quadrillion operations per second. That's what's going on in your brain. And now wait for this one. If you were to write down your brain's potential as expressed by the number of neural connections, right, the number of neural connections that it could make, then you'd take 75 years writing down all the zeros. And so just think about this thing. And so, when I learn stuff like that, I get quite astounded that how little I'm using it for my own betterment, right? It's like, I can do all that with my brain, but am I doing that? I don't think I'm even anywhere near there, right? Of course I'm not. And so just imagine if you could expand this ability to, understand how your brain works more and to control your brain, and then to be able to, really utilize this, incredible machine. I guess the best metaphor I could talk about, in terms of the difference between the brain and the mind, because I think the mind is separate to the brain. The mind is like the controller of the brain, right? And so here's my metaphor. Everybody's probably seen a Star Trek movie. Now, just think about one of these latest Star Trek movies where you see the most modern version of the USS Enterprise, right? I mean, what an incredible starship. It's capable of going into hyperspeed, going through wormholes, going from one side of the universe to the other. It's the functionality of the machines is got to be beyond comprehension. And so just imagine if I went in there and they sat me down and said, now we're going to teach you how to start this thing up and, kind of move it forward. Okay. So you can kind of drive forward a bit, and it's like, great. And so I'm not the kind of operator that knows how to operate this machine. I kind of don't even understand, 1/trillionth of the functionality of it. And so that's my best analogy to I'm talking about myself now, to my mind operating my brain. I mean, I'm not even aware what it's capable of. I'm kind of I'm a pretty naive driver. And so what am I in the process of doing, of becoming more of a conscious leader? I'm consciously trying to work out how I can be a better driver, my mind, of my own brain. And I think that's incumbent upon any leader who wants to be a significantly better leader, a more conscious leader. That's the journey I'm on, and that's what I challenge leaders to think about. Just think about, do some research around what this brain actually is. Do some research about what your conscious and non-conscious mind is, or what some people call it the subconscious mind, and think about what's going on there. And so now we've got kind of traversed into that area. Let's talk about the conscious mind. The conscious mind, neuroscientists have proven, controls about 2 to 4% of perception and behavior. The non-conscious mind, which many people call it the subconscious or the unconscious, I really don't like those descriptors. There's nothing sub or unconscious about it. It's non-conscious, in my opinion. And so the non-conscious mind controls about 96 to 98% of all perception and behavior. But traditionally, we're taught as people that we should just stay in our thinking mind, our conscious mind, and not even know anything. I mean, most people don't even know that they've got a non-conscious mind. They don't even think about it. They're not aware of it. Yet it's the non-conscious mind, through the belief systems that are housed in there, that control 96 to 98% of perception and behavior. And so one of the big exploratories, that I take conscious leaders through is to say, be aware that you've got this incredible resource called the non-conscious mind, which is, incredibly linked to your conscious mind, of course. They're linked together. They have to be. And it's the thing that controls 96 to 98% of all perception and behavior. So your behaviors come from not your thinking mind. We call them reactions, right? Your reactions don't come from your thinking mind. They come from your non-conscious mind. They don't come from the conscious. They come from the non-conscious. And so the non-conscious, what's going on there? And so, I've done a little bit of research, and I found that the non-conscious mind, compared to the conscious mind, if we were look at speed of impulse, right? The conscious mind operates at about 195 kilometres an hour. The non-conscious mind operates at about 275,000 kilometres an hour. Where's the power? And if you were to look at it in terms of computer speed, bits per second, the conscious mind operates at about 2,000 bits per second. The non-conscious mind operates at 400 billion bits per second. Where's the power?
Phenomenal.
Yeah, it's just phenomenal. So where's the power?
No wonder we've been told that we could light a city. One person, we have enough energy to light up a city. I have heard that.
Well, we're batteries, basically, if you want to be fundamental about it. Nikola Tesla talked about that. He said, I've got a quote here. I'll read it to you. It's an extraordinary quote by Tesla. He said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Well, I am energy, I am frequency, I am vibration. Therefore, I am a secret of the universe. And so, as a conscious being, isn't it kind of incumbent upon me to kind of find out what my secret is, as it should be with all human beings? What's the secret that I've got here? And I kind of, where I am at this stage of my evolution of thinking about conscious leadership and consciousness is that I am consciousness. That's, kind of, I've come to that conclusion. I am consciousness. And so then what is that all about? Well, it's got a lot to do with energy. And it's got a lot to do with understanding that I am, and everything that I've got going for me is energy. Now, how do I take control of that energy so that I can take control of all the energy that's around me? That's playing a bigger game, isn't it? A much bigger game. And what am I going to employ as my biggest weapon to do that? A better word is my biggest resource to do that. Well, I'm going to employ my non-conscious mind, because that's the powerhouse behind the whole game. And, I'm not going to go too much further into it, Michelle, but, it's just worthy of doing some research on and thinking about. And, a lot of the work I do with leaders helps them to understand, we go into more detail about that and really start to understand how you can control that energy, how you can utilize the resource of your non-conscious mind to help you to solve problems, to help you to understand how to best move forward in your life, to utilize that resource. I mean, wouldn't it just make sense? I mean, you can sit down with, a little, Macintosh back in the 80s or whenever they were first developed, or you can sit down with a supercomputer and say, that's your conscious mind, that's your non-conscious mind. Which one do you want to use to help you? Well, I want the non-conscious mind to help me. I mean, I'd much rather utilize that resource because, man, that's a powerhouse and it's mine. And the good thing is everybody's got one, but the vast majority of people don't know they have. And so this is the game, is to get, your head around this stuff. And of course, that's a lot of the work I do with leaders, is to help them to get their, clarity and focus around their true higher self, their vision, purpose, and unique identity, and then to be able to focus their non-conscious and conscious alignment, the alignment of those two minds, to focus that power behind those intentions so that we can manifest that reality. I mean, wow, right? I mean, it wows me. Every time I say something like that, I just go, oh man, I just got to get better at this. And, of course, what I want to do is teach people how to do that. And that's the game that I really like to play.
Wow. Well, we've been told that we only use 10% of our brainwave, but we know we've been dumbed down big time, but maybe it's not even 10%. But we've never really learned about the difference in we know the subconscious and the non-conscious, but the vast difference in power and in comparison to the two, with the non-conscious being how many billions?
400 billion.
400 billion bits per second, is it?
Correct.
Is that it? So
that's it. So the game, Michelle, is how do I get unification of the conscious and non-conscious minds around belief systems that I choose, not what I've had chosen for me, or not the narrative from mainstream media, or the narrative from other sources that are not in my best interest, that I've been led to believe. How do I override that false draconian programming that is not really in my best interest with new and better programming that's coherent with my true higher self? And when I, know how to do that, so I can override that programming, and then I can get conscious and non-conscious mind coherence, alignment, and then I can be clear about my intentions and move forward. Man, you become an alchemist, a magician. I don't use those words, without having thought about them. Alchemy, this is true alchemy, because what you're doing is you're using energy to manifest a reality that you passionately intend. And that is the game. It can be the only game in town, because then what happens is nobody can manipulate you through coercion, through their energy. They can't. It's not possible. You kind of develop this energetic bubble around you where you just can't be got at. And so if you're going to align yourself with somebody else's energy, it's by choice, not because they use their energy to subvert you into doing or being something else. And so, think about that, and it's leaders who do that to people are not leaders. They're tyrants. And so we've got enough tyrants in this world. We don't need any more. What we need is leaders that are conscious and align themselves energetically, create this resonance with people of like-minded or like energetic people who want to be a part of something that's bigger than the whole, right? And so, they share the vision, they share the values, they share, the intentions and the objectives, and they work harmoniously as a coherent group, creation, co-creation, cooperation, collaboration, those beautiful words, harmoniously working together. And, from what I've experienced of the collective, that's the game the collective is playing.
Yes, but we've got a long way to go. So what's really holding us back? Can you sort of surmise that for us?
Yeah. Well, there's three things that are holding us back. I think the first thing is, remember I was talking about beliefs? I think limiting beliefs are holding us back. This false programming that we didn't choose, in those imprinting years from 0 to 7, we got imprinted with a lot of beliefs that we were too young to choose, right? We didn't have the choice. They just came in because we were in a theta state of mind. And so therefore this stuff just came in and imprinted. That's why they call it imprinting. And so, we were taught and told a lot of things, from our parents or from our carers or from, the environment we're in or from the education or television or whatever.
From everywhere.
Yeah, from everywhere.
From everywhere.
That we're imprinting in. And they, that's the old operating system. And a lot of that stuff may not have, some of it may be good for us, but a lot of it may not have been good for us. And so a lot of people are still housing those beliefs and, that is controlling their operating system, how they react to certain things, And so we want to be good enough and smart enough to say, well, what I want to do now is I'm very clear and focused about who I am and why I'm here. And what I'm going to do is use that as the new program. And I'm going to program my non-conscious mind with those, that clarity of intention from my conscious mind so that I can override all that old programming and I can take away all the fear. I can take away those limiting beliefs as well. We were talking about limiting beliefs. So I can override the old and useless limiting beliefs that no longer serve us, and I can replace them with, new and better and more primal beliefs that are the beliefs that I want. And if I'm going to, adopt any new beliefs, they're going to be consciously what will serve me as my true higher self and all those people that I serve, which, by the way, is pretty much humanity, right? I mean, I'm serving humanity. I'm serving the betterment of humanity. And so, if I'm going to adopt any new beliefs, I'm going to do it consciously. And then I'm going to use tools and techniques, which I teach leaders how to do, by the way. I won't go into that here, but I teach leaders how to use tools and techniques to override that old programming with new programming, and then to get coherence between their non-conscious and conscious minds. So they've got belief systems that actually work for them and are not limiting for them. They're expansive, not limiting. And so the first one is limiting beliefs, right? And the second one is fear. And I just kind of touched on that a moment ago. We grow up in a fear-based environment where fear is used against us. It's used as a weapon against us. And, of all the times in humanity's history, the history of this planet, I mean, there's probably never been a more fearful time for humanity. I mean, if you raise your head up and have a look out there, I mean, everything we knew, trusted and relied on is systematically collapsing. There's talk about World War III, there's talk about nukes, there's talk about, extraordinary things happening that is, the massive degradation of our society and the economy, religion. The list goes on, media, the list goes on, right? It's just, there's not one aspect of society that you can't look at and say, well, that's pretty sacrosanct, that's clean, that's pure. Nope. I mean, none of it is. I mean, if you step up and face this stuff and don't kind of go into denial and say it's all going to be okay, it probably will be all okay the way I think. But right now we're in the midst of this storm, and you've got to be equipped to handle that. And you're not equipped to handle that if you're in a state of fear, Michelle, because what happens in the mind is that you, in a state of fear, for a start, the blood flows from your prefrontal cortex at the front, which is called the executive function of your mind, and into your reptilian brain. Now, why is it called your reptilian brain? They call it that for a reason. It's the brain that is about safety and protection. It's about fight, freeze, or flight. The most intelligent people in the world, when they're in a state of fear, run into the supermarket and buy toilet paper because they think it's going to protect them. Well, I mean, when you think about it, it's just stupid, isn't it? I mean, how is stocking up my house with toilet paper going to help anything, right? And so, it's pushing people into a state of fear where they're operating in fight, freeze, or flight. And so they're not really thinking, because you can't be stuck in that reptilian brain in that state of mind and also use creativity and imagination and problem-solving skills or thinking skills or reasoning skills. You can't do that because that's shut down. I mean, it's been shut down. And so this idea of keeping people in fear is keeping people numb and keeping people indecisive and keeping people in a way where they can't find a way out. They're literally stuck. And so, fear is something that, we've got to know and understand and be able to manage and not allow ourselves to be in a state of fear. And my view is when you are clear about who you really are and why you're here as your true higher source self, it's very difficult to have that understanding and have that non-conscious and conscious mind alignment and be in fear. In fact, I'd say it's impossible. You can't be in fear. It's not possible to be in fear. So the second thing I would say, the second big thing is fear. And then the third big thing I would say is ego. This idea of entertaining your ego or living your life through your ego. Because if I had to simplify the ego, to me, from my investigation, from my study, I'm sure that people will, either agree with me or disagree or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But, from where I'm at the moment is the ego is really all about me, more, and control. And so the ego is, it's all about me. I'm the game. I need to be the person at the front. I need to be the person, that gets the most adulation. I need to be the person who gets more of everything. I need to be the person that's in absolute control. Well, this is the ego in full flight. And so, highly conscious leaders are not egotistical leaders. They know how to control their ego. They know how to sort of put the ego to the side and say, this game is not your game. And if the ego rises its head, they know how to deal with it and say, you just get back there. This is not about you. This is not about more. This is not about you being in control of the situation, trying to control everything. I mean, by the way, it is fundamentally impossible to control anything external. I mean, everybody's trying to control everything external, and you can't. This is a fundamental precept, if not the first precept of Stoic philosophy, which is control the only things that you can control. And what is it you can control? You. You can't control anything else. And so all this stuff that's happening externally, I can't control what the government of this country does. I can't control what Putin's doing. I can't control what any of the governments are doing. I can't control what's happening in agriculture and with food shortages and with all this stuff, right, that's going on the planet. I actually can't control it. And so what do? My view is, in fact, Stoic philosophy says those things you can't control, embrace. And so I'm not going to back down from this stuff, at all. I'm well aware of what's going on. And I just say, well, come on, bring it on. But at the end of the day, what I can control is who I am and how I energetically respond to this stuff through the filter of my true higher source self, my best self. And so that's what I can control. I can control that. And so, it's a matter of saying I can control the ego. The ego is something that is not my best friend. It doesn't really work for me. In some cases it can, but I think it's a matter of knowing and understanding where it's useful and where it's not. And for the most part, I see, from my studies and my experience that it's not useful because it doesn't play a very good game. And so, the ego, unfettered, doesn't have a role in conscious leadership as far as I'm concerned, as far as I can tell. And so they're the three things, Michelle, that I think are really holding us back. Limiting beliefs, fear, and ego.
You mentioned there are a few well-kept secrets that we all should know about. What are they?
Oh, I'm not sure I should tell you those, Michelle, because otherwise they wouldn't be secrets anymore. Okay, I'll tell you. So here's a secret, and it may not be a secret to everybody, but I think it's a secret to a lot of people, and that is that conscious leaders understand that we do not live in this world, but this world lives in us. And so, just think about that. Conscious leaders know that we're all connected, that we're also sovereign beings, and that everything we perceive, think, feel, and believe is entirely within our control and what creates our moment-by-moment experiences. And so I would challenge people to just go, we do not live in this world, but this world lives in us. What does that mean? It's not a play on words. It's actually the truth. I choose not to live in the matrix. The matrix is something that, has been embedded in me, but I won't allow it. And so what I choose to do is say, I do not live that world. I do not live in that world. I live in a world that is completely controlled by me, by my energy, my thoughts, my intentions. And that world is a mirror. The world that I live in is a mirror of my energy and my intentions. And so if things don't go well for me, I don't look out and say, what have you done to me? I look inwards and say, what have I done to manifest that in my reality? Look in the mirror. The world lives in me. And so therefore I need to look at myself and say, what was my energy like? What was my thoughts like? What were my words like and my actions like? What was actually going on there that manifested that reality that I didn't really like? It didn't work that well for me. And so what am I going to do about that? And so, of course, I need to recalibrate my thoughts, my words, my intentions, and then I need to back that up with my actions. So I need to take actions around that. And when I do that in a way that's consistent and with a high level of vibrational energy, that's what I'm going to manifest. And so that world that I'm manifesting actually comes from me. That world lives in me, comes from me. That's
self-creating, manifesting.
Self-manifesting.
Yeah.
And therefore, if you want to change your world, change yourself.
Yeah.
Change your thoughts, change your words, change your energy, change your emotional reactions to emotional energetic responses, change your actions that are in alignment with that. And so that's one secret, and I'll give you just one more, and then I think that's probably enough for today, right?
Yeah.
Conscious leaders also know that the key to connecting with and manifesting everything, and this is really coming off the previous point, is to have clear and focused intentions. Now, that is the electric energy. The clear and focused intentions is the electric energy. And then when we elevate our high vibrational emotional states around that, that's the magnetic energy. And so this is where the words electromagnetic energy come from. So what's electric? Well, that's my clear and focused intentions. What's magnetic? Well, that's my emotional state that is working to attract that stuff to me. And so if I'm going to generate electromagnetic energy, it's going to be the clarity and focus of my intentions and the energetic pulse, feeling, the vibrational energy I wrap around it. And then what happens is we broadcast that electromagnetic vibration or energy out to the universe. You've heard a lot of people say, I'm putting it out to the universe. Well, what are you putting out to the universe? Are you putting out clarity of intention? Are you putting out an energetic vibration that's really enthusiastically, lovingly wrapped around that? And if you are, and you do it consistently, then I would say that's more than likely, in fact, it's science, that's what you'll attract into your life. That's a secret most people don't know. They haven't got a clue about that.
So true. So true. All right. Any last words?
Well, I might finish off where I finished off last week, which is, and I'll reinforce this, and till the cows come home, really, if they ever come home. Where did that expression come from?
Maybe
I've never seen a cow come home ever.
Oh, they do that on a dairy farm.
Oh, do they? Oh, thank God for that.
Once a day, they all come to be milked.
Oh, they're coming home. Okay, got it. Okay, so it is good. I can use that expression. To me, it's all about this. It's to have clarity of your true higher self, your source self, your real self, the self that, made an agreement to come down to this planet and as a spirit have a human experience. And so to have clarity of that, and I would say that really needs to start with having clarity of your vision, your personal vision, which is your why. Why am I here? That's number one. And number two is to develop a greater understanding of energy and to master energy, because when you master energy, you master everything. And so it shall be. And so it is done. That's where I'd like to leave it, Michelle.
Okay, just so can we do a workshop sometime on the who and mastering the energy?
Oh, yes, I've got a plan for that, I must tell you.
Very.
I'm going to run it by Quantum Brownie on Monday.
Oh,
A little bit of a
lovely,
chat about my
lovely.
plan on how we move forward to make this stuff happen inside the community of the collective.
Fantastic, Glen.
I
Look,
have a plan.
you have a plan. It's all about the plan.
It's all about the plan. It's a
Yeah.
good plan. It's a good plan. I've used it before. It works. And so
Oh,
if
good.
you're a part of the collective or you want to be a part of the collective, then you'll get the plan on how to be a conscious leader, which this planet really needs a whole lot more of.
Yeah, and now's the time. Wow.
Now's the time.
So much happening and big changes coming very soon, we hear. So thank you, Glen, for sharing your wealth of knowledge with us again. And I look forward to our next session, Leadership. Bye for now.
Thank you, Michelle. Bye for now.